so inaccurate that I doubt any claim made about her. So Fred Gutenberg, doesn't say who he is, criticized Green, writing, "She denies that my daughter died in Parkland. And yet, because my last name is Gutenberg, because I am Jewish, she thinks I shoot lasers at forests and start fires." Now, if that's that guy's interpretation of what you just read, I'm questioning his ability to interpret anything, to the point where now I'm questioning whether, in fact, his daughter died. Maybe he didn't have a daughter at all, because this guy seems not to be able to understand much about how reality works.
But of course, this is not a lack of understanding. They are
I was taking it at face
lying
I was
about
taking
Marjorie Taylor Greene. I know, but it's important, though, because conservatives do this. I know you're not a conservative, but some of our listeners are. Conservatives do this. This is not a lack of understanding. They are lying about Marjorie Taylor Greene. They are lying about her, saying that she's some kind of anti-Semite, when we all know full goddamn well that Republicans from Georgia who QAnon post and support Donald Trump are strong, steadfast supporters of the state of Israel.
This isn't even like a misunderstanding where it's like she worded it in a way that you could... No, they literally, if you read the Wikipedia page, again, they put things into there that she didn't say because it makes it look worse. So, like, it says, 2020, she asserted she shared a conspiracy theory about the deadly campfire in California, suggesting it was caused by, quote, space solar generators in a scheme involving Governor Jerry Brown, companies PG&E, Rothschild & Co., and Solarin. Then the next sentence says, the Rothschild family, a supposed, quote, international cabal of Jewish bankers, quote, has been target of numerous anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. Now, that almost makes it sound like she called them that. Because who's that quote? Who are they quoting? The implication is they're quoting her, but really what they're just saying is the Rothschild family has been, by some people, characterized in this term. So therefore, anybody who ever mentions them in a negative be part of these anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. So presumably, if a company with the name Rothschild on it, I don't know, made some bad business deal or did anything that you don't like, and then you point it out, well, some people say, therefore, you can't say anything. You cannot criticize a company that has that name on it.
Yeah.
Or we will quote this thing that we won't even attribute to anyone, and we'll make people think you said it.
Yeah, and so the Republicans, as soon as Congress was in session back in January, they voted to remove her from all of her committee seats, right? And for those who are not like poli-sci people, when you're a representative, being in committees is that's the way that you get things for your district. Being a representative is not about, voting when a vote comes up. You're in one or two committees, and depending on whether or not your party's in power or not. So generally the way it works is a committee has like 15 people on it, and then it's going to be 9 members of the party in charge, and then 6 members of the party that isn't, regardless of how strong the majority is, right? So even if the Senate was 94-6, all 6 of those Republicans would still be on every committee, right? And similarly with the House. Obviously, the people with the least seniority are the 3 that are dropped, depending on who's in power and who's not. And so I know I said the Senate, but again, same in the House. And so that is how, you pick a committee that is relevant to your concerns, right? Whatever your district cares about. Ron Paul, for example, I don't think they ever put him on it, but he would surely want to be on the House Foreign Policy Committee or the House Intelligence Committee. Actually, he was on the House Financial Services Committee because he got to question Ben Bernanke all the time, right? So Ron Paul hates the Fed, House Financial Services Committee, right? He was at this for years, so he got it. And, you get to put in all these amendments, straight into the bill. So they're not, you don't need to, when you're on the committee, you don't need to hold a separate vote to put your amendments in, right? It's just the 15 of you or whoever on that committee who just put it in, and then it goes to the floor. And then all those other losers who aren't on committees, all of their amendments need to be voted on by the whole Congress. Do you see the advantage to being in a committee? So this is, again, for our listeners who may not understand how this. So when you take an incoming representative and don't let them be on any committees, you have crippled their ability to do anything. So Marjorie Taylor Greene has responded by every day at around noon, she calls for a vote to adjourn the House. And do you know what this requires everybody in the House to do? Show up to the House and vote on it. Greene's guerrilla tactics are inflicting pain on her GOP colleagues, who have complained that they serve no purpose and interrupt the flow of the workday for lawmakers, particularly meetings that are planned around anticipated vote schedules. As far as I'm concerned, Marjorie Taylor Greene is doing more for liberty right now than Ron Paul was on the day-to-day. I'm actually amazed that Ron Paul never also tried to just completely grind Congress to a halt with bullshit votes. Well, I'm sure, Ron Paul had his committee seats, and so I'm sure, the Republicans threw him a bone, and if he did this would exhaust any goodwill he might have had. But Marjorie Taylor Greene is like, well, since the party has conspired, right? The Republican Party has conspired to remove one of its own members from their elected office, right? When the Republican Party tells Republican representatives to vote to remove another representative from a committee seatings, the Republican Party is saying, we don't want you to be a representative. You won the nomination, you won the general election, but we, the party, don't like you, and so we are basically going to gimp you. And so Marjorie Taylor Greene is therefore interrupting everybody's meetings by calling votes to adjourn the House.
I love it.
It's fucking fantastic.
Greatest. Why wasn't Ron Paul doing this? I just saw the article that you must be reading on CNN. Quotes her as saying, a lot of my Republican colleagues were mad at me and called because they were upset that I interrupted their schedules. And she said, I'm sorry I interrupted their breakfast and their fundraising calls. Keep at it, Marjorie, you wild bitch.
There's no reason to adjourn, and I'm not into taking votes just to slow down things, he added. I don't think a good number of our members want to waste our time with that. It's a long walk over here from our offices to the House floor, and with the length of votes we're taking right now, it adds another hour to our time. Rather than going to bed at 9:30 tonight, it'll be 10:30 or 11:30. Right. On Wednesday morning, Wahlberg was one of 18 Republicans who bucked Greene and voted against her motion to adjourn. That was the largest number so far, and Wahlberg made clear to Hill that he had been the second Republican to cast a no vote on the floor that day. These other 17 GOP no votes included House Republican Conference Chairwoman Liz Cheney, Tom Rice, Adam Kinzinger, Mike Simpson, Kay Granger. I mean, these are all, for those who remember, these are all never Trumpers who are really mad that Marjorie Taylor Greene is violating the sacred work that's done in the halls of the House of Representatives, making them walk across from their offices to the floor. They have to go to bed at 9, 10, even 11:30 p.m. I just don't understand the strategy, Banks said after the vote.
That's like a classic example of when you know you're doing, when they try to tell you, when someone who's your enemy tries to tell you why your strategy is good for you.
Yeah.
You would really get a lot further doing other things. Okay, thanks for that tip. I'll write that down.
Right. Okay, how's this? Give me back my committee seats.
Yeah.
Right? If give me back my committee seats and I'll
The strategy is I'm going to bug the hell out of you until you guys listen to me.
Right.
Or at least the strategy is if you won't allow productive, then I won't allow you to do anything productive. It might not be, maybe it won't work, but don't act like it's this where is she coming from? This makes no sense. It makes sense.
And we don't really need to go over how we feel about QAnon
Guerrilla
stuff.
tactics in the House of Representatives. I love it.
Yeah.
I was not interested in Marjorie Greene before this. Now,
oh yeah,
I'm gonna look into it.
She's joined the base department with Ilhan Omar and such.
Yeah.
It's Ilhan Omar, Thomas Massey, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
The House-based caucus. You should make that and then send out a press release or something to see if you can get them in it.
Okay, yeah. So it's Marjorie Taylor Greene, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Thomas Massey.
Yes.
That's it. It's the House-based department. Right.
They get together and they just talk about, I don't know what, House of Cards or something.
Yeah, they talk about their suspiciously well-funded primary challengers. Right. I mean, the Ilhan Omar thing is just insane, but okay. So that's Marjorie Taylor Greene. Next, okay. So back to COVID stuff. So Texas. So what is his name? Greg Abbott has declared that Texas is open. He is all restaurants can open to full capacity. All mask mandates are gone. Right. He is just stroke of a pen, done it. Ron DeSantis, the governor. Oh, sorry, that was the other thing we'll talk about at CPAC. Actually, it's very simple. Ron DeSantis is the governor of Florida, and he is placing himself as sort of the successor to Trump. His big thing is that he has not been like he's been bucking the orthodoxy of Florida, rather of COVID stuff, by having Florida be pretty much completely open as of a few months ago, really. But I think he keeps the mask mandates. I think he has mandatory masks, but he doesn't do the gathering limits. I think that's right.
In Florida?
I think so, yeah.
No.
How has he been doing it?
My understanding was that many months ago in Florida, he changed the rule so that you can have whatever you want for mask rules. I'm looking it up right now before I just spit here. So Florida does not have a mask mandate. So my understanding of that is that what he did was, actually, they're going to tell me right here on USA Today. So that makes it easier. EFG. Yeah, so what Ron DeSantis did brilliantly was he suspended all fines and penalties associated with not adhering to mask mandates. He did this back in September 25th. So if your city or your town or your county has a mask mandate, they cannot fine you or give you any repercussions for not following it.
Okay.
By order of the governor. So a lot of places in Florida do have them, a lot of places not. But the point is, they are not enforceable because the fines will not be. They are not allowed to issue fines to you because the governor stopped them. King that he is.
Yes. So Ron DeSantis is therefore, he has a lot of support from former MAGA people. Right? He is a successor to Trump. He is the right-wing populist guy now.
Are we still on Republicans? I just realized.
Yes, we're still on Republicans. But
how many more things do we have?
Not many, honestly. Okay, so Ron DeSantis is positioning himself as Trump's successor. A lot of people who I respect are really pushing for this, but I'm kind of the view that since Ron DeSantis, as like on a state level, yes, he's very libertarian, but on his foreign policy issues, he's very neocon.
Yeah,
right? And so I think that Ron DeSantis
makes a good governor, would not make a good president or a good senator.
Right, like Ted Cruz is another person who I think is great where he is and shouldn't become president. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think anybody. I'm an anarchist. I don't think anybody should be achieving federal office at all. I think everybody's great at the more local level. I'm sure even Andrew Cuomo or whoever would be great as just a city councilman or whatever. But Ron DeSantis strikes me as the kind of guy who's like, yeah, I'm a right wing. Basically the same thing as Trump. Honestly, literally the same. We've already kind of been through this dance, right? You think he's going to be really base and he's going to end the wars or whatever, except Ron DeSantis doesn't even talk about ending the wars. Like, he's for them. But, it is what it is. So Greg Abbott has opened Texas. I feel like this is becoming a thing that Republicans are doing in preparation for, like, if you're a Republican governor, unilaterally opening up your state is basically you announcing your candidacy for the presidency. It's like, that's how you, like, so all Republican governors are waiting on is like, do I want to run for president? I don't know. They talk to their wives like, honey, should I open the state? Are the kids ready? Are you ready? Are you willing to have your life scrutinized if I open the state? I'm like, you do it. I want to be the first lady. Open up the state. And, the usual suspects are like, oh, we're going to see mountains of bodies in Texas. They're going to be shoveling all these corpses into mass graves and open
just
air
like burn. We saw in Florida. Just like we saw in North Dakota. Just like we saw in Georgia, which was the number one death destination, you remember. And then nobody died, and then they just stopped talking about Georgia, and now they're talking about Texas.
Yeah.
And then when nobody dies in Texas, they will just stop talking about Texas, and they will talk about something else.
Yeah. And as Tom Woods has noted, Florida's numbers are perfectly average, right? Even though Florida has a massive senior population and is supposedly in
one of the oldest
COVID
populations in the country.
Yes. And has, not only is the average age high, like the number, like that bracket is also, right, it's a lopsided. So they have a lot of seniors, right? So yes, we're supposedly they're in COVID anarchy, and yet their deaths are simply average. Like I said, Dan, I believe in masks, but I don't believe in lockdowns. So yeah, that's our Texas news. We'll be watching his career with great interest. Hold on, Dan, did you catch that reference?
Yes, I did.
Ha! See, it's great that you've watched it. So now we can just All right.
I've already seen them before, but I haven't watched them since I was like